We're going to be talking about creative prospecting techniques. I couldn't think of a better group of people to talk to other than the folks at Sales Rebellion. So I'm super excited to have Dale and Chris Watson on. And if you have not met these two, you definitely, maybe you two want to drop your LinkedIn profiles in the chat. Definitely connect with them on
Sure.
LinkedIn. But Dale is founder and CEO of the Sales Rebellion. And it's a community all about learning how to use human marketing at its best and to achieve long lasting results. And in a really simple way, I'd say Dale is probably one of the most creative people that I've seen running sales communities, along with Chris, who is a strategic sales and storytelling expert at the Sales Rebellion. Sick title, dude. Love the title. But one thing that Chris is going to be talking about today is stories. And he's used stories to meet or exceed quota every year as a salesperson. And he's also just worked with a ton of different organizations. So we get two really awesome folks on today. So Dale, Chris, welcome, man. Good to jam with you guys.
What's up, dude? Thanks for having us.
What's up? Yeah, it's awesome, bro.
So creative prospecting, I think it'd be really good. And for those of you just hopping on, say hi in the chat. Let us know where you're coming from. We're going to try to get to as many of the questions that you guys ask as possible. Please use the Q&A function in Zoom that we can kind of filter it out of the chat, and we'll get to them as many of those questions as possible. But Dale, just to kind of start with you, man. Why do you think that people are such straight arrows when it comes to how they prospect? They're so formal through the emails and real proper, through the cold calls. What do you think it is?
I have a strong opinion on this, and I think it all comes down to the fact that we like to put labels on things, and so we've created this label and box as well too for the business world. So we've put business in a box, right? To break that down even simpler, anything that happens in business goes in this box, and it happens the way that it's supposed to in this box. Because of that, we say things like, "Oh, I couldn't do that. This is business. Oh, the client wouldn't like it if I were to say something like that. This is business." And we've created these rules and regulations inside of the B2B space that are really, they're fake.
Yeah.
They're walls that we've put up that you can walk right through, right? They're translucent walls. Ooh, that's kind of a cool thought, actually. But the problem is that when you first, like, let's say you're first getting into sales or you're first getting into the business world, you're learning from people through these very strict lessons and articles and blog posts and podcasts that are telling you these are the formulas to be successful from a sales or marketing perspective. And they miss one of the most key components, which is they tell people, like, be authentic, but do it in these 3 steps, right? And that to me is just a little bit crazy, where, like, we believe in a system around the process of creating a brand, but your authenticity should be abstract, right? It should be who you are, how you feel, what you want people to hear from you. And it should empower not just other people to be better themselves, but it should be empowering you in every moment in the way that you're going to market as that authentic self in the first place. So without those pieces, again, I think we get stuck in the box of business where people say it's not business, it's personal. Well, guess what? I pay my bills with everything that I make in business, and that's my personal life. So to me, the whole concept of this is my life. That business is not just like the thing I do from 8 to 5. It's part of my walk. It's part of who I am. It's part of that authentic Dale that you see in general. So long-winded answer, but I think that that's a huge piece of the process.
I'd love to ask just people watching, give me a yes in the chat if you relate with Dale and what he said there around feeling like you're in a translucent, was that what it was? Translucent box? Give me a yes. And if you guys could, that little blue box, change it to panelists and attendees, just so everyone can kind of see. But if you relate with feeling like you have to operate inside of a box when you're prospecting and selling, yeah. Alan Diamond says no. Right? So we got some no's in there. That's cool. A lot of
Sick.
guesses. Chris, what's your take on this? I know you come at things from kind of a storytelling angle, but what was it like for you getting started in sales? And did you feel like you had to operate within a box and be super formal?
Yeah, I think we prospect the way we've been prospected. So we do what has been done to us. And so if you think about, like, in fact, I would almost say that, like, we need we need to have more conversations like this, because this is what's hopefully going to break the next generation from doing it so poorly. We've got to defeat the white noise. I mean, that's what storytelling is about. And so I think because we got the calls that were so formal, that we saw it being so formal, that we had the door-to-door salesperson, we had the car dealerships that we went to, that when someone said, hey, by the way, you're going to go do this. Well, what was familiar? What was familiar was the story that had been told to us. So what did we say? Ooh, I don't know if I want to step out there. I don't know if I want to be different. I don't know if I want to do it differently. So what did I do? I did it like everyone else, because that's safe. So I think people like the Copier Warrior, people that stepped out and said, I'm going to do this differently, it was so far out. And now we're recognizing where the rebellion and blissful prospecting are trying to bring people in to say, we need more creativity. In fact, I would say the shift that we're seeing in storytelling is that people are following people on TikTok and on YouTube. They don't even know them, but those people are bringing their authentic lives, or quote unquote authentic lives, to the screen now. And people are so tuned in. So we're seeing the way that things are changing anyways, or the way people are tuning in. I think the expectation is going to be, I want creativity. I want experience. I want show and tell, not just tell.
Oh man, I love that. It's I can totally relate with, and Dale, we talked about this in prepping for this webinar. I could totally relate with feeling like it was risky to do something different, not because I would get in trouble for it, or not that I wasn't taught, that it was, there's almost this risk of embarrassment. I don't know, if you
Yeah.
try something or you try to be clever or funny and it doesn't hit, it reminds me of when I used to do stand-up comedy. And don't worry, it wasn't no Kevin Hart, you guys. But doing an open mic, I did my first set, 3 minutes at an open mic. Literally the only thing that I heard from the audience was at the beginning, a clap, because I said it was my first open mic, and at the end, crickets the entire time for 3 minutes. And I have it recorded, and I played it for my wife, Sarah, a couple of years ago. But I remember that feeling of, ooh, I'm going to take a risk and try to do something here. And if it doesn't work, no one laughs. It's the same thing I've felt in sales too, where if I try to do this thing and it's different and it doesn't work, it's embarrassing. There's this weird kind of a discomfort that I've felt before.
Very valid statement. And it takes me back to when I first created the Copier Warrior brand. And I had somebody literally tell me, this is stupid, you're going to get made fun of. And I remember thinking, oh, in that moment, like, oh, I actually hadn't thought about that. And then I asked questions like, well, why do you think this is stupid and not gonna, well, because I don't like it, and I don't think anybody else will like it, is what this person basically said. So there was a temptation in that moment to kind of back off of it and say, like, this could risk my business reputation. But I really sat back and thought about that statement, my business reputation. And that's when I developed the identity that I just did earlier of like, why am I putting myself in this box, this business box? Shouldn't people be free to choose between Dale or somebody else, and not forced to choose between business Dale and business somebody else, right? Was the thought process. And also, if I'm the only person thinking outside of this box, then even though it's a risk, wouldn't that actually help me to an extent to stand out and find the tribe of people that are looking for someone like me, because they're sick and tired of the same old crap. They're tired of the white lies. They're tired of being treated like a number. They're tired of all these specific things that I stood for as the Copier Warrior, and that the Sales Rebellion preaches on a daily basis in regards to our foundations and principles as well too. So I knew that I had to take that risk, bro. So at the same time as that, I totally can relate and empathize with that thought and feeling, that in those moments I chose, because I recognized also that we have to be intentional about these types of things. We can't sit around and constantly just say to ourselves, oh, I wish I could do it, or I want to try maybe soon, one day, later, a month from now, or a year, right? But instead saying, I'm going to be intentional with this thought. I'm going to construct something. I'm going to put everything into it. And if it fails, ladies and gentlemen, you just learned one of the most valuable lessons you'll ever learn.
Yeah. No, I love this. Okay, so we've kind of set the stage. So for those of you watching here, we're going to cover a couple different things. I want to dig into creativity, and how you guys think of creative ideas. And you guys have some really cool examples too that I'm excited for you to share. And then what we'll try to save some time for here at the end is, and I've never done this before, we'll pull one of the attendees in as a panelist and work with you a little bit. So hopefully all the tech works out for that. But Chris, let's start with you. Creativity, is there a structure, framework, process? Is there anything like that that you do to get creative juices going? And maybe you shared a story. I don't know if you're allowed to share it actually yet, or if it's a secret, but you were talking about some stuff before we hit launch here that you're doing. And I'm curious, how do you think of creativity? What's the process? Where do you go for inspiration? Because some of this stuff seems so outside of the box, yet so obvious at the same time. How do you think about creativity?
Yeah, I mean, if I'm going to take it finite and I'll take it 30,000 foot. So when I want to prospect a specific company, when within the rebellion, we want to pitch a company, the structure that I use both in the rebellion and at Craft and Compel is, and it's real simple. What is their story? What is my story? And what's the story we're going to write together? And I think we were talking earlier, and I think too often a majority of people, the reason why it's vanilla is because of what? They're only telling their story. I think I saw one person over here, Ray, says, learn about the customer, do something different, try the back door, the shipping dock, not the front door sometimes. We've got to learn what is the story of the people that we are reaching out to, that we're prospecting with. So when the creative juices flow, what I think about is, what is the macro story that I want to tell? If it's the sales rebellion and we're thinking about what's the macro story of the sales rebellion, well, we want to help give freedom to people that are in sales. We want to allow them to be free and be themselves. We want to allow them to defeat the status quo. We want to allow them to have a community. So that's what our story is. Well, then I got to think about the person that I'm pitching, the organization I'm pitching, to say, well, what's their story? If I can figure out what their story is and my story, I can then say, what's the story we're going to write together? So with Jason and I, we haven't met other than pre-call. We talked a little bit about both hanging out in the PNW. My mom lives up there. The more I learn about you, I'm learning your story. If I ever then want to come back and hope to partner a strategic alliance, I'm going to lead with your story. Why? Well, listen, people, unfortunately, I hate to say it this way, but people are selfish. They care more about their story than they do other people's story. So if we want to connect with people, we've got to show them through empathy and sympathy, hey, I know your story. We talk about in the rebellion, how do you build familiarity? And how do you disrupt the habit loop? Well, what's the typical habit loop? Hey, this is Chris Watson with ABC, and I've got XYZ that's going to change your CDE. That's the habit loop. What do they say? Not interested. Thanks. Click. If I was to lead with their story, then that's where the juices flow for me. I think we fail to remember that creativity really can come from not ourselves, but what the company or the organization or the person putting out. We lean in on who they are and what they are. To get real finite, I don't mind pitching and showing here. I'm getting ready to go pitch a company. And if you're out there and you hear it and you want to come sponsor Blissful Prospecting, or hey, I want to go pitch Liquid Death. Liquid Death is a heavy metal water company, essentially. And their tagline is murder your thirst. Basically, they believe that your thirst has been deceiving you. And that's why you drink out of plastic bottles that's killing the world. So what did I do? I got a coffin, and inside the coffin are ashes, because guess what? Liquid thirst helped me murder my thirst. And I want to partner with them to help them tell other people how to murder their thirst. How do we help more people? Well, how does that creativity come about? Well, listen, all I did was leaned into them, right? I didn't come up with the idea on my own. I just came up with, what's the story we're going to write together? Well, the story you're going to write together is, I love your product, and I want to help you enter into new markets so that we can murder their thirst.
So I love this piece, their story plus our story plus the story we're going to write together. And Anthony was asking, I think this is a really relevant question. And what's up, Anthony? So what types of methods do you go through to get and understand their story? So Chris, maybe that one is the murder your thirst is maybe a bit obvious, but I don't think it's super obvious how you would connect those two things though.
Yeah.
You know?
So here you go. So are they on podcasts? Are they on blogs? When the rebellion, we talk about wandering your territory. So let's break this up in somebody that's very active socially and somebody that's like local, like I'm selling to Henderson Paint down the road. You can learn their story by either wandering the community that you're in, wandering your territory, which we at the rebellion call a community, and learn about who they are, the Chamber of Commerce, their colleagues, their industry. So that's one way locally. You can also, there's tons of information. What blogs do they put out? Do they have a podcast? Have they been on a podcast? What's their website? How are they marketing their own product and their service? What's the problems that they want to solve? We can learn about their story. Too often we're so unfortunately consumed, and we won't get into sales leadership, but sometimes we're pressed to do it a specific way with our quota and with sales leadership that we don't feel like we have the time to go research and understand their story. And that's where I think to learn their story, we've got to use the information that's available to us to really learn who they are. And in fact, when we do that and say, hey, Jason, I saw you on, I listened to you on, that would already set us apart, that slight change than a majority of other salespeople.
So it's thinking about, for me, the takeaway there is looking at what's the narrative. Like if I was going to pitch this company's products and services, what's the angle that they're taking? Where are they taking a hard stance? And even companies that have super boring marketing collateral, you can kind of understand, even if they have a really boring mission statement too, what do they really care about? Dale, what's your kind of take on this? Do you approach it from a storytelling angle as well, this creativity piece?
Absolutely. That's the rebel way, baby. So storytelling, this is what I think everybody needs to understand, is that storytelling is bigger than just this fad. Storytelling is the oldest form of communication in the world used by human beings. It is extremely important that you hear Chris's words and that you don't think, oh, cool, a new trend. This is a thing that's been going on for generations. And it is a way to connect with people so much deeper than just the surface level. Hi, can I take 30 seconds to tell you why it is that I'm calling? And then throw a pitch. And listen, I'm not trying to talk smack here, y'all. I respect all of your pitches and what you're out there doing. You guys are working hard. Salespeople are monster human beings, and I love you, and I want nothing but the best for you. But what I'm telling you is the person on the other line hears the same thing over and over again all day, and you're not interrupting a pattern, and you're not activating their brain like a story does. If instead, imagine you pick up the phone and Chris is on the other line, he goes, once upon a time, and he does his voice, right? Like you're going to be like locked in for a second, even if you're thinking to yourself, what the hell is going on? That's what we want to create. We want to create a little bit of chaos. We want to create a little bit of risk, because people know that when they risk, that the reward is greater. People have experienced that in their life one way or another, right? People understand that getting out of their comfort zone is actually kind of a good thing. People crave it in a sales interaction because you're not offering it now and nobody does. So the storytelling methodology goes way deeper than just this idea of like, it's clever. This is actually something that is proven psychologically to activate the brain better, more effectively and efficiently, and create relationships and credibility between you and the person listening. And listen, if you're out there and you're like, oh, great, another relationship salesperson, like there's not enough of us, first off, and we need more of you. So please consider joining the movement. But secondly, relationship building doesn't mean that you have to have pizza with their family every Friday night and know that little Timmy is graduating from high school next week. Like that's being creepy more than anything, right? Like what we mean by business relationships is someone they can trust, someone they can count on, someone that they like. There's not a buyer out there that says, we're going to go with this person because I didn't like them. That's insane, right? So sitting back and understanding the full capacity of a story is important. Our campaigns are all centered around, like Chris was saying, causing and creating familiarity while also giving a very Disney-esque experience. Your buyer, or you listening right now, doesn't need 3 quotes to decide to go to Disney. They just go to Disney because they know what they're getting out of it. They desire what Disney has. They're bought into the brand. Their kids are of age where they can remember things, and they'll pass out by 6:30 because they'll be so overstimulated that mommy and daddy can spend some time together afterwards, or daddy and daddy, or mommy and mommy, whatever the case is. And that's the thought process, right? We have to understand that people have extrinsic and intrinsic values they're leading with every day. And unless we're telling the right story, unless we're building something that's familiar and that's captivating and that a culture that they want to be a part of, an ecosystem they want to be involved in, then you're just a commodity. You're just a number, and you're just a quote.
Yeah. Okay. This values piece there's such a big connection with stories, and it's, I don't know, in my personal life, a lot of times my wife Sarah and I will do when we meet people is, hey, what's your story? That's what we're trying to figure out. What's your backstory? Where'd you come from? What was high school like for you? Are you an introvert? Are you an extrovert? What do you like to do? And it's all of those kind of things that help you really find out what someone values. And in business, there are so many outward indicators of what a person and a company would value. A lot of that stuff is pretty easy to find. I want to get to, before we get to some more examples, Aaron asks, how does starting a story, or how does starting with a story foster a conversation if you're trying to solve a problem they don't know that they have? How do you guys think about that?
You want me to take it?
Yeah, go ahead, take it.
Cool. I love this because Aaron, I sold copiers. It was Aaron? Yeah.
Yep.
The name? Cool. Aaron, I sold copiers. Copy machines. Right. Most people didn't know they had any problems. They just knew that every 5 years they had to renew their lease. Everyone hated the copier for some inherent reason, though, also, right? But copier sales is commodity selling 101. All everybody does all day is walk in and say, hey, can I see your lease agreements, and beat the price with their suit and tie on. It's the same thing over and over again. It's very generic sales industry. Sorry to anybody that's out there listening that's wearing a suit and tie selling copiers. I apologize. I wore a suit and tie too, but it was bright red or pink so that you would see me coming to the door. So the concept here that you're talking about, Aaron, is how do you build a story around things that somebody doesn't recognize that they have in the first place? Well, that's literally your talk track, right? When you're telling somebody, hey, we helped this person, with these problems, and or hey, can I show you how I can generate more revenue for you using this particular process? You're already doing it in your pitch to some extent, right? But when you build something that's kind of outlandish, through a storytelling method, it causes the brain to activate even harder. So I used I had commercials of, people like getting toner all over their body and being like, it's everywhere, right? And like expressing these things that when someone's watching, they go, ha, that's literally happened to me. But we don't pitch that. We don't go, hey, let me sell you a copier because this one time you had toner all over your body from changing it out, from one machine to the next, and I can fix that for you, right? In some cases, we can't fix stupid. In some cases too, right? It's like, can't fix that. If you're going to spill toner, you're going to spill toner, right? But creating the identity around the problems that they could be having that they're not talking about through storytelling methodology literally opens the door to anything and everything that you want to discuss with a prospect, because they see beyond the surface level of those couple of things that you usually point out that are familiar to the industry, or that are consistent, I should say, more than familiar, in your talk tracks, right? So really the storytelling methodology around things that, this is a risk too, is what I should say, Aaron, is that you don't necessarily know they're having these problems, right? But we have a method through a letter program where we tell people 90% of the sales trash that you get is just that. And we call it the crumpled letter. And we tell them, so we pre-crumpled this letter for you to throw it away. And so there are ways to identify the problems that people are experiencing in not a generic sense, but just in kind of like a mass production sense to an extent, where they'll find familiarity in that story that then ties back to other things you fix. So because you've never looked at other options, you're limited to the vendor you've been using. And this is the thing, these are the things that those vendors can't do, or that vendor can't provide for you. And that comes from doing, like Chris said, a little bit of research, seeing that they're a preferred partner with Dell or Lenovo or whatever the case may be, right? And then saying, cool, I know how to attack, from the perspective of a story that will be familiar, that people that they might not know that they have, and to open their mind around that concept of, this could be something worth listening to. Have you guys ever seen an email, everybody listening, have you ever seen an email from somebody, or heard it even yourself, where someone's written you like at a C-suite and said, hey, love the prospecting effort, I'm going to forward this on to some people. If they deem it worthy to talk to you, then they'll get in touch, right? That's my favorite email to fight against, right? Because what that says to me is that we haven't proactively led with storytelling efforts and methodologies, like Aaron is pointing out, where we talk about things that they don't even know that they're having a problem with. That's a super important piece of the puzzle of what we do at the Rebellion. We don't just lead with generic and standard pains inside of an industry. We think deeper, and storytelling methods allow us to go and travel that route.
I
What
can
you wanna add, Andy?
piggyback. I would say, think of it like, in fact, I'll answer both Aaron's question, and then I'll answer Anthony Pieri's question here as well. So what I would tell you is, what Dale's talking about is a story instead of a pitch allows the buyer, the audience, the prospect to participate. Your pitch doesn't allow them to participate because it's usually a yes or no. There is no participation. It's just, I don't have that, or, oh, I have that. But when the person's sitting there and they have toner all over them and Dale wraps this whole thing in a story, then now they're thinking, you know what? I get toner on me as well. Well, Dale didn't lead with, are you spending too much money on toner? He didn't lead with that. Instead, he told a story that then makes them think about, yeah, you know what? I get toner all over my hands. And then when he talks to them, now we can go into the conversation of, because that story is very, very similar to what you're experiencing. Now you can get into the more of the value props, or you can get into the more of the benefits and the features. I think the key is, how do we let the prospect participate? We don't let them participate with the current way we are prospecting. To Anthony over here, who says, would you try to do this in a cold email or a mainly cold calls? Everywhere. You need to figure out, what is your macro story. Dale's macro story was the copier warrior. That was his macro overall story. I am the copier warrior. Every micro piece of his outreach and his letters and the brick and everything he did, those are micro stories, but they all led back to the theme of what the copier warrior really was. So we have to start thinking of ourselves of, we are a brand within a brand. If I work at whatever company, you know, I just recently bought a hat. This is from Bad Birdie. You may have seen some ads. Bad Birdie, it's a golf company. Okay. If I work at Bad Birdie and I'm trying to sell apparel, I've got to figure out, you know, is Chris the, you know, is Chris the eagle eye? And I'm the guy that loves to hit eagles. And that's my personal brand within Bad Birdie. We have to start thinking of ourselves as a personal brand, because that allows us to craft the macro story, which then allows us to do the cold emails and the cold calls. And here's where I would say is that prospecting where we struggle. And I know I felt this way too. I just felt out of control. I felt like I didn't have control over it. I felt like they had control over who I was calling. I felt like I was at the mercy of them. But when we give ourselves a brand and I say, listen, I'm the storyteller, I'm going to tell stories. What I've done in that moment is I have freedom to look at my prospecting as almost a laboratory. I have freedom to say, hey, I'm going to try this one out. I'm going to go send this coffin. I'm going to go send a crumpled letter. I'm going to go send a coffee stained letter with a coaster on my face and say, hey, coffee on me, coffee on me. And I feel in control of that and excited and rejuvenated. So I would just tell everyone that's listening, like, let's bring the juice back and the energy and the excitement of prospecting by coming up with a personal brand, which is a macro story. And then you're going to have fun with your emails. You're going to have fun with your cold calls. You're going to have fun when you show up and you knock, because you know who you are and you know what you're offering.
Dude, I love this. One thing that you can do as a rep is start paying attention to little things that you hear in sales calls. And I'll give you an example. I was doing a coaching call yesterday. I was helping this woman with her prospecting. And what she kept hearing was from VPs of marketing was this. You know, we create a lot of content and it's a lot of work, and we don't know what content is actually generating revenue for our sales team. And that's a story, that's a narrative that goes on in a lot of these marketing departments that she can talk to. Is this, hey, Dale, I'm hearing from a lot of marketers right now that you love creating content, you put a ton of work into it, but one thing that's really hard to figure out is what's actually generating an ROI so that you can double down on those things. How are you guys creating content right now? How's that going? And that's a very tiny macro story that you can start with that doesn't have to do with, hey, Dale, did you know that when people create content, they're missing out on 20% ROI by not doing, that has nothing to do with the numbers, none of that kind of stuff. Think about the story that person goes through throughout their day and the thing that is top of mind for them. Pay really close attention in your sales calls with those little sound bites. Your prospects will give you these stories and these sound bites. Hey, you guys, let's get to some examples. Dale, Chris, I don't know what else you guys got. I know we got a bunch of different stuff, but what Dale's giving us the little eyebrow flicker there. What are some examples that you guys can share? And then we'll try to save maybe 15 minutes at the end here, we'll work with one of the individuals, which, by the way, we're going to pick a person at the end that has been submitting questions and engaging with us. So if you have a question, now's the time to ask it.
Yeah,
Go
hurry
ahead,
up,
guys.
Jordan. Ask a question. So Greek. Uh, and the thought here too is that I'm going to go over here is how do we step ourselves into creativity instead of just like rushing full force. So we do a lot of these. Anybody that's here that's hung out with us before inside of the rebellion, come to other webinars, we expose a lot of this stuff. And so I wanted to do something a little bit different for y'all today, especially because I love Jason Bay. Guys, Jason Bay, he's the man. So what we kind of came up with was let's walk you through my origins as the copier warrior to like where I ended up. And so one of our plays is business cards. Sounds crazy, right? There's a lot of people in 2021 that are like, you still have a business card? And yeah, like business cards can be, I got to put my hand over this real quick, but business cards can be, you know, kind of just the same old thing to an extent, right? They got some information over here. They got the company name up here. On the backside, they got the offices, you know, more numbers, more information, what they do. So business cards can be a little boring at times, right? So back in 2009, this was the first business card that I actually created inside of my creative process as the copier warrior. I'm going to try to get this to sit correctly on the screen here as I continue to talk, but you can see that like I played the same game everybody else plays, which is that I put very simple information on here, right? It's just like, this is my name, this is the company I work for, here's my phone number and whatnot. But what we did on the backside, I know it's not, it sucks, Tina. I hate it so much. I'm going to try and figure out how I can make this work better, but actually I think I can do it like this. One second.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Yep, that's clear now.
Sick. So this is the backside of the card, is that we would write in, and we did this in a way that we could kind of manufacture it, and so that we didn't have to write it ourselves every time, but we put in a little message. This one obviously inspired by Geico and my early years of trying to figure out my creative bone. Scanning so easy, even a caveman could do it. And we had millions of messages like this on the backs of the cards. And when I say millions, I really mean it. We had hundreds. So you would get a box of cards mixed with all these different messages that would essentially relate back to and create familiarity around what your prospect was dealing with or what was interesting to them to some extent, right? So from there, I got a lot of responses. People were like, oh, these are nifty cards. I really like these. These are fun. These are cool. So what I started to ask in that process myself was, is it interrupting the typical pattern of what this person is saying? And the answer was yes. This thing on the back is what people are actually really interested in. They don't care about the front. They care about the back side of this thing. Like, this message is what makes people talk, nothing else. So then I started to say, well, how do I put something on the front that makes it fun? So I came up with this card. Turn this off again. This is my everything copier. Come on, baby. No pun intended, or quite literally.
There we go.
So this is a copy machine. It's got some pancakes on the finisher. It's got a turkey in the oven. It's got an espresso machine in the middle of it. There's a baby bathing station on the top, some coats. And on the backhand side of this, it says, I could make your life easier with the right copier solution. There's still a little bit of, as you can see down here, there's still a little bit of the status quo going on back in this point in my career to an extent, but I was still figuring this thing out. This card right here got me more referrals than I can even count from people. And the point being that, again, like I stepped into these things very slowly, right? Very slowly, I stepped into these things and I found that it was creating outcomes for me. Well, I also have an intricate story around that copier, and people that see those copiers, they know in their minds, in most cases, the people we're calling on, that they do a lot more than what we actually advertise. So we say they print, they scan, they copy, they fax. Well, they do a crap ton of other things, like thousands of features on these machines that nobody ever uses. And we use that as a pain that people didn't know that they had. Thanks to our boy Aaron from earlier. Aaron,
Yeah.
you brought up a great point, and I'm going to use it like a million times. So
One
we were,
quick
go
thing,
ahead, please.
Dale, is that I think to stress is that that picture is something pretty easily that you could get designed on Fiverr for $5 or $10. And if you're thinking I'm in inside sales, why would I need a business card? One of the cheapest ways that you can get a hold of people is through regular mail. Get an envelope, put a 50-cent stamp or however much stamps cost these days, and then put the business card in there and just send that off. That's a
Right.
really easy way to differentiate yourself. So just in case anyone's thinking here, why would I mail something if I'm in inside sales?
Yeah, and anybody that knows us knows that we freaking love mailing stuff. It's like one of our favorite things because nobody's doing it, right? Is the whole thought process. So, and to go with what Jason was just saying, we have pain there, we have familiarity there, we have existing problems that we didn't know existed. We have a lot of things inside of this concept, and you can do things like send it in the mail, or you can put it in a video. And if you get creative, ladies and gentlemen, there is endless amounts of possibilities with a business card like this. Here's the other thing is that no matter which way the world goes and as digital as it ever becomes, the human connection will always be something that people crave. And if you can create that through something that's tangible, you're going to win. So I went from the landscape to the portrait business card to the 4x6s, this bad boy right here. So I would drop these off. And now I had a lot of iterations of this. So I had images of me and Chuck Norris and Angus MacGyver on the front of a card like this, holding a copier, a bomb, and Chuck wearing a gi. And I would, again, created a very unique persona and brand around what we would do to help you with your copier solutions. I love this one because it's very gamer-esque. It's very much my generation, and it attracted my tribe. So anywhere that I called that had a millennial and that knew video games like I knew video games, we connected, right? So this is tribe building 101 as well too. The thought is that you want to think about this is that we're trying to create inclusivity, but we're going to find people that feel that we're being exclusive to them in the process to an extent, which is that personalized attempt. So when people see things, they're like, "How did you know I love video games?" I had no idea. I just tried this, and it related to you, and it spoke to you, and you liked it. But this is me fighting a copy machine on the front. The back is got some big statements like the best kept secret in office solutions, some fun little diagrams, and some quirky things that they say. None of it is traditional. It says other copier people save you money, I save you headaches. Little things like that, right? That speaks to the value. Go ahead, Chris.
I was just going to say, I think the thing that people should hear in what Dale's doing is, for some people, they're thinking, well, that's not that crazy. It's like, no, it needs to be at a 6th to 8th grade level. I need to be able to hand this to a high schooler and then be like, oh, I know what this means. I get it. Even if they're not in the organization, that's how you win in stories. You win by communicating in a way that anybody can understand what's going on. And I think that's what Dale did, is he had a way of making it nuanced enough that you're like, what is this? But you read it and you're like, I get it. So I just want to piggyback that when you're building these, I see some people talking about like analysis paralysis and kind of overthinking it. You need to make it simple so that they get it, that anybody gets it, that I hate using gatekeeper, but our greatest ally, that person in the front, if they open the mail for the decision maker, they get it. We want everyone to be like, I get it, because we're trying to give them a story to tell. That's the goal. The goal is, if Dale's the guy that's going to help you do X, that anybody in the organization can say, oh, what? The copier what? Oh, there's a guy, Dale. He'll help you out with that because he does that. And it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter if you're the janitor, which I know that Dale's used the janitor to get into some offices back in the day, or if it's the CEO. I don't care who it is. They all should know the story. So we're trying to give them a story to tell.
Yes, love it. So the evolution into the sales rebellion is a, and by the way, everybody listening, I also use things like cardboard cutouts of myself. I used 8.5 by 11 size paper as well too, on like thick, like cardboard paper and put business card-esque style images on it with information. Like made my business cards bigger and bigger. Cause the thought is about the same concept is like, you got to think when you call on somebody, just because you were creative doesn't mean you're going to get an appointment with them. So nuancing it and sequencing that is super important. So think about the fact that I have these like 3 assets that I just showed you, and that I can use each one of them individually, and that I can stir and cause and create more curiosity, and I can keep consistency, and I can start to build that relationship. But these are the cards that we kind of evolved into, and I can't show you, but here on the back is a white space. But augmented reality, when you hold a phone with the Rebel lens over this white space, writes you a note and creates an interaction that you've never had in your life, and will set an appointment with you immediately. Another piece of the puzzle that we've evolved into as well too are these QR codes. You guys have probably seen QR codes, right? So like imagine a card just with my name and face on it and a QR code. And anybody out there that has a phone right now, I'm going to get this centered so you can scan this. We're going to do this, guys. We're going to make this happen. And I just want you to scan this thing and enjoy what comes of it, because it's a lot of fun. And also what I want you to do is I want you to like take this back to your marketing teams or people that you know that are in that space. And now's the time to scan it right now. And I want you to show them these concepts. I want you to show them this landing page you're going to go to. I want you to show them the video that's going to pop up. And I want you to think about how you can create your own personal brand using this concept. And I want you to understand too, like the kind of interaction this provides for people. It goes way beyond the, hey, I've got something I want to sell you. Give me 30 seconds and I'll set an appointment. I promise, right? This goes into this space of, hey, get to know me better. Hey, understand, who it is that's coming at you a little bit better. And also like why I'm important to what it is that you're trying to fix. So one thing that I'll say and caveat to that is that people will buy into you if you create an avenue for them to do that. They don't want to buy into the product though. They don't want to buy into the company. I trust me when I tell you that. Please, I know that it might not seem like fact, but I'm very, very adamant about this concept because I've sat in the purchasing groups. I've listened to the way that buyers talk. I've sat through the CFO meetings, and the number one thing they care about is everything you're not talking about. It's always internal. It's always different than what you're thinking. And sure, they're going to be looking for a solution at the end of the day. They're not just going to meet with you for no reason, right? But if you can lead with something that's rebellious, that causes curiosity, that creates that storytelling-esque feel of familiarity, that ignites the brain, they're going to give you a chance. Shout out to Andy Walker too, by the way, who was in the chat talking about setting 7 of 10 booked meetings using a handwritten letter, a business card, and a tea bag. I'll let you guys hit him up and find out what that was all about. And also I want to say to this guy, or Tina, I think it's Tina. Yes. Tina owns a franchise. Tina Phillips owns a franchise, somewhat limited. I have students that are in franchises, and let me tell you, you're not limited. Do not allow the thought of the franchise controlling things to limit your personal brand. People will still see Tina, and in seeing Tina, they'll see the person that represents the franchise, represents the brand. And so I would tell you to just get with a local agency or get with some local peers and do some brainstorming around things that will create that personal brand for you. But that's all I had. I know we got like 15 minutes. I got other stuff, but that's all I had really planned for right now so that we could get somebody up on stage here and start having some fun with them.
One thing I want to stress too, because someone asked, how do I do this in a virtual environment? Dude, get the business card designed and embedded into the email and say something around, hey, we're not able to meet up in person. Otherwise I'd hand this to you. So I figured I'd just send it to you. I got something special in there if you scan it with your phone. You just do something really simple like that. I have someone in mind. Can I pick someone? You guys cool with that? Yeah. Jordan Greek. Are you, cause I know Jordan. Are you cool? Jordan, put in the chat if you're watching, if you're cool with us. Yep. Okay. I'm going to promote you to panelist.
So, hey, Chris, should we tell him? This is like a setup right here.
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of, but Jordan just sent me a sweet text that maybe Jordan would be, maybe Jordan be a good, maybe just giving some insight of some things that we've done for a moment, and him share a couple testimonials, and then maybe bring somebody else up.
I didn't even know this. Yeah. Okay.
Jordan, what's going on? Yeah. I mean, this is super cool. I mean, I've worked with all 3 of you guys. So, I mean, this stuff is sweet. It takes commitment, but I love everyone's style here because we talk about this word authentic a lot. I mean, I don't know any people more authentic than you guys. So this is really cool.
Well, I'll let Dale, you and Chris take it away. It sounds like you guys are already doing some stuff with Jordan, which I had no idea.
Why don't you just tell everybody what we created with you? Because Jordan has one of the greatest brands we've ever created, without a doubt, and it's going to take over the world. So go ahead.
Yeah. So my last name is Greek. I think like let's start about like quick thing on the process, because I think Dale, Chris, like JB, you guys have all like evolved your brand over time. It's not like you just wake up one night and all of a sudden you've got this thing. So my last name's Greek. Chris and I, we started talking about like the Greek god of war and like waging a war against these pain points. And from there it evolved to, how do we help, get to the next level with these folks? That transformed to how do we help people unlock, right, the next level of success? And that's where we kind of like backed into the Keymaster, which is my brand. And the Keymaster is helping my partners unlock that next level of success for themselves and for their buyers. So that's what I'm rocking right now. I call myself the Keymaster. And that's where I'm starting to create some creative pieces from. Keymaster.
Tell everybody what you do.
Yeah, so I work in the multifamily industry, which is rentals. So I sell to property management companies, ownership groups. If someone out there is thinking like, are you talking to CEOs about this kind of stuff? Like, yes. I actually just texted Chris. One of the things he helped me create was there's an industry magazine that everyone knows. It's called Multifamily Executive. And going back to their story, my story, and the story we like write together, we talked like that's the future story, right? Like, what does the vision of us partnering together look like? And we created this like 3, 4, 5 page magazine, and I went to their website. Like JB, we talk about this, right? Like whether it's reading blog posts or going to their about section, finding all those things that they care about, and I tied that into this multifamily magazine. And the CEO just the other day said, "Hey, this is awesome. I've told several people about this." He looped in like someone else in the buying committee and was like, "Hey, Janelle, like you got to set some time up with this guy." So he's telling a story about this creative piece, which is something that like that's never happened to me in my sales experience. So that's one example.
And I think a couple of the nuances are Greek works for a company called LeaseLock. So him being the key master, he's unlocking opportunities by offering zero deposit. So like somebody asked earlier about, is the pitch, when do I pitch? Well, he's basically, his pitch is within the story he's telling. Two, the sickest part about the magazine was usually it was the person that he was pitching's face on the front, and it said 2022 executive of the year. So it was this future story of congratulations, you won a future award because you partnered with us at LeaseLock. So I think it's it all ties, and it all, if you look at Greek's emails and cold calls and all, they're all micro stories leading back to this idea of unlocking potential, unlocking revenue, unlocking fill in the blank for the organization.
Yep. And the flip side is the pain, right? It could be like they're shackled or trapped, right? We're unleashing you from that pain.
Dude, I love it. Jordan, solid job, man. We're going to bring someone else on because it sounds like you're already doing this. That was totally unintended. But dude, appreciate you coming on. We're going to bring Anthony on. Okay, Anthony, I just promoted you to a panelist. So go ahead and hop in. And then Jordan, I'm going to boot you out here later, buddy. Anthony, what's up, man? You want to tell Dale and Chris and the rest of the folks sort of what you do, who you sell to, what kind of problems you're helping them solve? And then Dale, Chris, I'll let you two take it from there. We got, 5-7 minutes here to help out Anthony.
Yeah. So our company, we're a tech consulting company, and we really focus on helping companies innovate. So one side of the business is we sell into startup companies that are just getting off the ground. And the side that I've been prospecting into is larger companies that want to compete with the startups. And so a lot of them, they'll try to start these internal innovation teams, like mini startups within the larger organization. But they don't really know what they're doing. They'll pull people from within the company who've never worked in a startup, and they'll maybe read some books about it, but they don't really execute like startups. They run into all the same red tape that big organizations have. they still are in a lot of the same thought patterns of bigger organizations, slower moving. And so our teams come in and basically help lead the process of innovation. Sometimes if they don't have developers, we'll help develop the ideas with them. But if they have teams, we'll help them provide strategy and research and things like that. So we really are just trying to help companies that are bringing new innovative revenue streams to their company. So I've been in the role as an SDR for like a little over 2 months. So I'm still very new. And we're just now in our last blast of emails and calls, actually starting to book some meetings, see some traction. So, but yeah, still very early. So I don't know if that makes me a better candidate for this or worse, that I'm too new. So.
Hey, Chris.
So the first place I would start, as I kind of did some research on you quickly, is that you have a background in pastor, right? In the church, right? So when I think about that, I want you to think about that when you're working with Headway, is that you're going to have two types of individuals. And I'm going to use the church references because I grew up in the church and I know it. You got some people that are pursuing the church. They're pursuing God, pursuing a relationship with God. They're showing up, right? That's like a referral. That's like somebody that knows they have a problem and they want it. But then you got some others, and this is why evangelism is out there, that they need a different approach. They need, how can I make deposits into you? How can I show you who we are and what we do and how we care about you through the community, that then you're going to want to be a part of this. So when you're thinking about, and it's because you already have the skill set is why I'm telling you to lean in on this. When you're thinking about those that were apprehensive to maybe come to the church, or maybe people on your team that were apprehensive to buy into the community, to buy into what you do, or buy into the innovation of the church, I want you to think about that skill set, because this is part of your story. Every single person that is on this call right now, they have a backstory. They have roots of their life, as we like to call them, roots of their sales, that we kind of like want to eliminate all of those experiences when we show up to this new job. And what I would tell you is garner from that, because they're still humans. We're still dealing with the same people. So when I look at Headway, and I'm on your website, it says, we help founders and innovation teams launch new ventures, app design and development driven by research. So I want you to think about, without going too crazy right now, I want you to think about, what is the story that Headway is really telling C-suites or innovation founders? What is the story they're telling? Tell me, give me some feedback. What is the story they're telling right now?
Yeah, I mean, this, and from the calls that I've been able to sit in on, usually the story is that innovation is really hard. 95% of new businesses fail. And it's just, especially within larger corporations, the entire company is built to just keep the engine going. And any new innovation usually feels like a wrench, like in the gears. And so the story we're trying to tell is, we can come in, help innovation be an exciting, fun, life-giving experience that doesn't have to feel like you're fighting red tape at every corner, and it can actually help the bottom line and be aligned with your company's goals.
Cool. So where I would start, and then I'm gonna pitch it over to Dale. Where I would start is, think about the specific red tape obstacles. Lean in on those being some of your micro stories and your micro touch points. So you said, oh, sometimes it's a wrench. Well, what is a wrench? Is it cost that's a wrench? Is it time that's a wrench? Is it culture that's a wrench? Like, what are these micro moments that are the actual wrenches? And so, like in the crumpled letter, when we send the crumpled letter, and it's a very creative letter, we always include, these are the 5 outcomes that we can provide. Number 2, you want to tie that red tape and those wrenches, you want to tie back to revenue. So when you're crafting the story of innovation, you want to think about, well, what is this organization's story? And I'm going to go 30,000 foot view. What I mean is, if we're pitching an organization, here's what you need to know. You need to know, are they in growth mode? Are they in decline mode? Are they in stagnant mode? Are they in transition mode? For you, you're hoping they're in innovation mode. But there's different if I'm a failing company getting ready to go bankrupt, and that's why I'm innovating, versus I'm a massively growing company and I'm learning how to innovate. So those are the stories you need to lean on. And then you need to know what your subset of the story that Anthony is telling. And you need to think about Headway in terms of, I would put it to you like this. You need to think about Headway in terms of, why is there a gap between where you are now and the organization that you would be with the innovation that you guys can help them build. Does that track?
That's really helpful. Yeah. I'm writing this all down. And Jason, these get recorded, don't they?
Yeah.
Great.
I'll Dale, go ahead and do your thing. I got an
Did you
idea.
say you were going to charge for that, like $10,000 for this video? I think you told me earlier. I told him that's too much, Anthony, by the way. But so Anthony, a couple of thoughts here. One would be that Chris is right. And then secondly, I would say you need to think about so every prospect says, so what, when you reach out and you have these messages. And so you need to think about the experience now. So now that you have this identity around the story side and the things that you want to create for the future story that you want the prospect to tell with you alongside them, you need to think about the ways that you're going to correctly and effectively get in their headspace, as we like to say. So you want to take up real estate all day long and just make them think about you. For example, when I used to send out those cardboard cutouts of myself, I was stabbing a copy machine with a sword, and it was like a golden copier. Like I wasn't stabbing, I was pulling the sword out of the copier. And there was a giant piece of text over it that said, every day he wakes up believing this is his job. And then there was a letter that when they pulled out and they opened it and they read it, it said, copier reps are boring. You know it. I know it. But your copier is the lifeblood of your organization. So why are we mediocrely, handling this process day in and day out, right? And that resonated with people, and it was creative, right? So what I thought of and I wrote down for you is you need to create some kind of sequencing around this as well too. But I'm going to give you a piece of this that I thought up that I usually don't do. I don't do this. So enjoy this. Imagine that you send, some very structured and tailored boxes that are designed not in a brand centric manner to you, but to the prospect. So like get their palette, find all their brand colors and the things that you're trying to create around them, and put just a little tiny box, right? And put your logo and their logo on the top, where it says their logo plus your logo. And then below it just says equals happiness, right? Something very simple, because you're talking about when you cut red tape, and when you implement these processes, you're talking about putting them in a state of fulfillment and happiness and enjoyment, right? So you want to think about the emotion that you're going to create around this, and imagine that they open it up and it's just a giant thing of red tape. And it says, let's never deal with this again inside of your organization.
Really good.
It just has your name and a QR code they can scan to go to get on your calendar. And imagine that you sequence that 3-4 different ways as touch points, that eventually, after a second or a third or a fourth touch, this person's like, who are you? Like, this is ridiculous. And tell the story through very tangible and creative touch pieces. Hopefully that helps out.
Dude, I love this. Hey, just for time right now, because we're a minute after, I want to make sure, please go out and connect with Dale, Chris here, and you two, just before we take off, I want to make sure you guys get a chance to let people know about what you're up to. And Anthony, I'm looking forward to hearing some of your ideas, because we do a little bit of work together through the Sales Qualia group. So I'd love to hear from you, man. But Dale, Chris, this was awesome, dude. How can people get more stuff from you?
Yeah. Hey, first off, Anthony, thanks. We appreciate you coming up here, and to everybody, including Anthony, that came today. We appreciate it. We believe that time is the most important thing that we can give to one another, and so we appreciate you giving us yours today. We have something happening right now inside of the Rebellion that we'd like you all to know about. I just put a link to it inside of the chat, but we're launching a product called the Rebel Refuge. It's a gamified system for sales reps that don't have a big budget for sales training but want to be a part of a community, something stable and steady that creates extrinsic value for them while also providing the intrinsic as well. We've built an entire world for you to come and hang out in, and we're doing a launch on July 1st. And we would love to see everybody there to come hang out with us. I think Jason already dropped our links for our LinkedIn profiles if you want to come connect with us on there as well too. We post content daily, Chris and I do. And we're connected to tons of other rebels, not just sellers, but people inside of our organization as well too, that you can piggyback off of and find as you come and discover us. But I also put a link to our Slack channel if you guys want to just come and hang out with guys like Jordan Greek that tell their stories and share their successes all the time around this creative prospecting mentality and methodology. And that's it. We love you guys. We appreciate everybody for coming out.
Dude, this is awesome. Dale, Chris, thank you so much for your time, and everyone else, thanks for spending an hour with us. We'll send out the replay to you guys later today, but I love how simple this stuff is to implement. So this was awesome, you guys. I learned a ton. Sweet. We'll see ya later, everyone.